So HTML, hypertext markup language. This is the words on a page. Everything you see is wrapped inside of HTML. I like to think of it as like the skeleton that holds up a web page. It's like the nouns of a language. But this idea, the HTML really came about kind of in conjunction with this whole request response cycle. In the early days of the internet, this was very young and it was fairly unregulated, and people who were using different types of technology couldn't communicate the same way. And so a very smart computer scientist named Tim Berners-Lee, who was working at Cern, created this idea of standardizing this interaction to say, hey, everybody that makes these requests and responses should be able to get back the same information. And so in standardizing this, what his team came up with was the World Wide Web. And so HTML was the first language that worked on the web and that would work on all computers as long as they were part of this internet system, as long as they were connected to this big internet machine. So pretty cool. But basically HTML is a way of displaying content. So there's these sets of tags that just tell the computer how to display the information. And so the tags are read by the computer and everything inside the tags is put onto the screen. And what you do with the tags as a developer can influence the look of what's being presented. So HTML is, I mean, it's fundamental. It's so important. If you have any interest in learning development, this is absolutely where to start. It's typically pretty accessible. You can actually play around with it even in your browser, but it is absolutely like the fundamentals of any kind of programming. There's clearly a lot more to go from there, but that is the thing that we ask all of our students to have a working knowledge of as they come into the boot camp. So the next thing we talked about in the trilogy of languages that create the user side of the internet is CSS. This stands for cascading style sheets. And basically it is the thing that makes your code look pretty. So without CSS, every single web page will look like it fell out of the 90s. And if anyone is here is old enough to remember having a MySpace page, if you could like go in and like edit your HTML and CSS on your MySpace page, and like that's what you're doing is you were changing the appearance. And so CSS targets the HTML. So HTML is the stuff that puts things on the page, and then CSS targets those tags that are read by the computer and then changes and influences the way that the material is presented or put onto the browser. And so between the two of those, that's what makes our static page. That's what makes the page that the user can read and view information. CSS is sort of notoriously finicky. And so this meme is sort of making a joke at that.